I mean, I remember, I used to see her, I walk up and down there, I used to run the library, so I'd use when John was, and so I'd see her there, and she always looked kind of wrinkled, and then she would make some witty, sharp comment.
Yeah.
Well, this woman's lethal. I loved her. All right, I better go find my seat.
Oh.
There's a place in the program where that would go.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Is it on? Can you hear me if I stand back here like this? Okay, good. Welcome. We're here to share memories about Shirley and meet each other and continue the community that she was a part of. I'm Donna Byrne. I'm the oldest child, and it's a little bit of an overwhelming privilege to welcome you. Before we get started, a couple of announcements. There are white index cards out in the lobby and here and there, and also in the social hall where we will have a reception. And we invite you to write your memories on the cards and put them in the baskets that are here and there. And my intention is to scan them all into a PDF. So if you leave an email address, I'll send that to you. So write legibly. Okay. Second thing is that if you're not familiar with this building, there are restrooms in the hallway behind us. There's some stairs right there, and half a flight up and half a flight down. There are more restrooms, and then there are others a little further away down a long hallway, and I'm afraid I might get lost trying to find them. What else do I need to announce before we get started? Okay, I'd like to introduce my siblings and the rest of the family who are here. So my sister Karen, you may as well, because they want to see who it is. My brother Steve, okay. They each have a spouse here, Mike. Mike is here with Karen, and Holly is here with Stephen. Oh, she turns around and waves. Okay, yeah. Okay, and we have all 4 grandchildren here. My daughter Liat, Steve's daughter Lauren, my son Adiv, and Steve's son Quentin. Okay. All right, so obviously piano was a very, very important part of Shirley's life and the life of anyone around Shirley. And one of the people very closely involved in piano and Shirley's life for many years now, although I still remember when she came to OSU as a very young professor, is Rochelle McCabe. And she's going to start with, I don't remember what you're playing. Sorry.
This is a piece by Rachmaninoff. Shirley dearly loved Rachmaninoff, so.
speakers are all people who have been involved with John and Shirley in one way or another. The first person is Joanne Troe, and I know her now from the book group, which John and Shirley joined after John retired. And what? Is the microphone on? Sorry. I've been privileged to join the Sunday evening book group and enjoy Joanne's comments, but she goes way back with Oregon State and other connections, and I'm going to let you take over now.
Good afternoon. Seeing so many old friends and colleagues here this afternoon, I'm sure you all have memories and interactions that you've had with Shirley, and so I have just a few, and Donna said to be short, so here we go. When you met Shirley Byrne, you knew the experience would be special. With her warm smile and easy response and outgoing demeanor, you felt right at home in her circle. And over the years, I've known her in many ways. Among others, dinners and meetings at her home when Old Mill Center, Bev Larson, the founder, and others, and we worked on various problems. And as the hostess for OSU dinner parties and receptions. And as she and John hosted the Sunday book club. And sometimes what always came across was that she was comfortable with who she was. She easily put others at ease. She was gracious. She had a wicked sense of humor and always dressed beautifully, seeming to know the right outfit for every occasion. And her earring collection. She wore only clip-on earrings in this day and age, and would comment on occasion how hard it was to find the style of these earrings these days. And occasionally she talked about and shared her love of books, birds, music, and John and her family. You will hear from others about her role that music played in her life, but one comment. One of her students would often comment after his regular lessons with her that they were the highlight of his week. Not only was he learning to play the piano, but he was learning about music and also was able to share his love of jazz with her. But birds were a special interest, and she pursued these well past the backyard bird feeders and the bird baths. I marveled at the way that she and John incorporated birds into the great adventures of their various trips and vacations. Also, almost every continent seemed to have birds to seek out. And India or Africa or wherever were very special ventures. And then there were books. Shirley parked a large stack of books on her nightstand. And she always had interesting suggestions for our Sunday evening book group reading list. When John and Shirley joined the Sunday evening book group, and by the way, they don't always meet on Sundays. They don't always meet in the evening, but still, Grassroots knows us as the Sunday evening book group. We found out how devoted both were to reading. They did not just read the book that was on our list. If there was a movie made, they watched it. They searched out as many reviews as they could find and other comments that others had made. They would even watch an episode or two of a TV series of the book. And of course, we all remember Shirley's in-depth discussion of the author of Lonesome Dove, Larry McMurtry. Recently, as we read and discussed Niall Williams' This Is Happiness, Shirley related how on a trip to Ireland a number of years ago, they remembered reading that Williams missed the New York Times. He had lived in New York for a while. Since they were staying near where Williams lived, they sought him out, went to his home, Times in hand, and gave it to him. They ended up having a delightful lunch at his home with him. Their insights into Williams as a person and writer contributed significantly to the discussion of this book. A particularly special memory was listening to Shirley play appropriate music when we were discussing a couple of books that she had recommended, Something Wonderful about Rodgers and Hammerstein and Body and Soul. This brought each book to life in ways that words could not. And of course, there is Proust, a great favorite of Shirley's. I think she would have liked us to have read everything that he wrote, but she was persistent, and we did read at least one. And then there was the Bruno lunch. Linda Jewett, another book group member, and I had read and enjoyed Martin Walker's series on Bruno, Chief of Police, and the Bruno Cookbook. And since this takes place in France, and Bruno is a very interesting character, and one learns a lot about French history along the way, reading those books, we thought Shirley would be interested. So Linda planned a luncheon where she and I used Bruno's recipes. Linda checked out the first book in the series from the library. And we invited Shirley to the lunch. And we all had a grand time. We ate the lunch, we talked about Bruno. Shirley was interested. Shirley took the book home, and that was the last we heard of it. The book was returned to the library, but Shirley never said anything one way or the other about what she thought about it. So much for using food to tempt someone into reading a book. So music, birds, books, John. Seeing John and Shirley together, you could tell theirs was a special connection, a way of communicating, enjoying each other's company, supporting each other's endeavors and their family, and yet each maintaining their own sense of self. Baseball was a particularly interesting activity for them in terms of OSU sports, and Shirley would go along, even though the weather was like football weather, or whether the sun was beating down. But also, Shirley did have opinions about music, about books, about movies, about art, politics, people. And when she did express them, they were supported with reason and ideas. And I must say, she was always kind, sometimes even with a little sarcasm. Shirley is remembered as a significant role model for us all. There were good times and sad times, difficult days and joyous days in her life, but she always found a purpose to go on. I remember her as strong, caring, thoughtful, intelligent, witty, talented, sincere, devoted to John and her family. It's been a privilege for all of us that she has been a part of our lives. And I'd like to conclude with a thoughtful poem written by a friend of ours, and who was also a friend of John and Shirley's, by Dave Buchanan. It's called Wherever Souls Soar. When loved ones depart this life, unique events happen in nature. Great horned owls softly hoot taps into the night. Curious clouds choreographs spiritual sky image. Vibrant rainbows emerge, glow, then promise golden pots of red vital presence, suggesting that all will be well. If spirit world exists where souls meet and greet, I will search for you. If my breath of life transforms into a peregrine falcon flying, I will touch your shoulder with my wing. If death is just a long, tranquil sleep, I will dream at peace, gently tucked into the warmth of our memories. I think that is Shirley. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is someone I've known for most of my life. When Jan and Larry Small moved to Corvallis, they quickly became really, really good friends with John and Shirley. And one year, I babysat their kids while everybody went out to New Year's Eve festivities. So I'd like to invite Susie Small Hungerford, who has actually been with John and Shirley on some of those fabulous adventures to other continents.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Donna. I'm so honored to be here today and to be able to share a few words about Shirley. As Donna said, she has meant so much to our family over the years. You may know that Jan and Larry Small have been friends with John and Shirley for decades, but what you may not know is that I am a direct beneficiary of that friendship. I was lucky enough to travel with them all over the world on some amazing adventures, including the Galapagos Islands and East Africa, just to name a few. And honestly, those trips have been some of the best memories of my life. So I thought I'd share one of those memories that brings a smile to my face every single time. It has sustained me over the years, and this was quite some time ago. So on a trip to Kenya and Tanzania that I somehow finagled my way into, it was my parents, John and Shirley, and another couple, and me. We were, oh, I'm sorry, I can scoot up. Is that better? Okay, sorry, guys. So on one of those trips to East Africa, we celebrated Shirley's 70th birthday when we were in one of our tent camps. Shirley, of course, became fast friends with the crew there, everybody in the camp that had been setting it up, making the food, and again, they fell in love with Shirley and John. The crew took it upon themselves to make her a birthday cake. It was beautiful. It was big, layered cake, and it was presented to her after dinner. We all marveled at the culinary abilities it must have taken for them to make this layer cake over a wood fire, because we were out in the middle of nowhere. It was very impressive. So after singing happy birthday, Shirley was given a large knife to cut this cake. We all waited in anticipation, ready to sink our teeth into that beautiful cake. She sunk the knife into the frosting and began to cut, unsuccessfully. With the look on her face of, and I know you can imagine this, wow, this cake is really dense and dry. She applied a little more force to that cake in an attempt to cut it. The camp crew were all lined up behind her, watching intently, smiles on their faces. So not wanting to disappoint, she was truly just ever the gracious person. She began sawing with all of her might into that cake and getting nowhere. I honestly don't remember who first noticed that the entire camp staff was giggling and trying to hold back their laughter. As it turns out, as a birthday prank, the crew had served Shirley a cake made of elephant dung, covered in icing. Weirdly not as gross as it sounds, but impenetrable with a knife. Of course, she howled with laughter when we were finally let in on the joke, and was also very pleased when they brought her a real piece of cake. I love this story. It is an example of why I admire the way she lived her life, full of curiosity, full of laughter, and full of love. I hope I can always keep a little of that with me. So thank you, Byrne family, for sharing your mom and your grandma with me and with all of us. Thank you.
About 2.5 years ago, I kind of moved in with John and Shirley to help out. And that means that I've been there working in the afternoons. I'm a tax preparer and an estates attorney, for those who don't know. So I would be sitting there working, and I could hear the piano lessons. And there was one guy that always came on Tuesdays, I think, and he'd be playing things that sounded really cool. And I want to play that, but then I'd have to wait for 2 more students before I could ask Mom, who was playing that, you know, that waltz in the minor key? And so we'd go through what it was. And it turns out it was Steve Ford. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about his experience with Shirley as her student, or whatever he's chosen to say. Thank you. You didn't know that, did you?
No, that's the most positive thing I've ever heard about my playing. I had my first piano lesson when I was 8 years old, and took those lessons religiously until I finished high school. Then I decided to take a little break. Well, that break lasted 62 years. And finally, in 2016, I decided, maybe I ought to go back and learn how to play the piano. I don't know what possessed me, but anyway, so one morning I was having coffee at Sam's station with my tennis buddies, and I happened to mention, I think it's time I took piano lessons. And I said, do you know anybody that could help me? And because I don't know any piano teachers. And they said, well, sitting at a table nearby were John and Shirley Byrne. And I'd never met them, but I thought, and they said, well, they know something about the piano. So I walked over and introduced myself and said, I'm looking for a piano teacher. Can you recommend somebody? She gave me the look. And she said, certainly, me. And so from that point on, from September 21st, 2016, until April 15th, 2025, I had my weekly lesson with Shirley. And it was always special, right from the outset. Just walking into her music room was special. 2 Steinway grand pianos, and then this whole wall of sheet music. And it was just, it was inspiring. And then over time, she would introduce me to her special friends, Mr. Beethoven, Mr. Chopin, Mr. Schubert, Mr. Rachmaninoff. And it's as if she really knew these people very well, to the point where through them she developed her mantra that she told me about over and over and over. Play the music as written. And she meant it literally. And I had my own definition, which was play the music sort of, or play it approximately, and so forth. And so the result of that interchange was that I would start playing, and she would stop me, often within, sometimes within just a few notes, and point out that I wasn't playing it as written. And that got a little frustrating, and so one time I even said, Shirley, come on, let's compromise. Why don't you let me play it all the way through, and then you tell me the mistakes I made? And her comeback was, well, nobody has that good a memory. I thought that was a bit harsh. But then she was, of course, correct. Because when I played according to my definition, I played notes. When I played it according to hers, I played music. And that made all the difference in the world. Then, 3 times a year, we had what Shirley called sharing. Now that's a very soft, nice word for the evil recital. And so we would arrange, the students would get together in her music room, and each one of us would play something that we had been working on for each other. And but it was amazing. Here we were, a group of mature adults, been through a lot in life, good and bad and otherwise, so we kind of knew how things worked. But we were terrified. Somehow it was as if we were playing in Carnegie Hall and not in Shirley's music room. And so even one of our students mentioned, a retired surgeon said, I was never this nervous during an operation. And so, but somehow we survived. And the reward was that afterwards we had a social hour with drinks and snacks and had a good time chatting with each other, so kind of made it all worthwhile. Shirley taught us a lot. We got a good education in music. We had a lot of fun. It was very inspiring, and it was a wonderful experience. And no question, I will miss Shirley very much. I do now. But she was great. She was my teacher, and she was my friend.
Okay, the next two speakers are musical colleagues of Shirley's. And so we are going to hear their comments, and they're going to play some music for us. So I'm going to invite Rochelle back up. I'm firing up the speaker, and we're going to open the piano. Philip.
Well, maybe.
No,
after
not
the
yet?
slides.
Oh, after the slides. Okay. Sorry, I did it wrong.
No, you.
Why is this
But we could
Sorry,
put it.
I didn't. I'm working on it. I didn't push enough buttons when I pushed the buttons. It takes the.
Well, good afternoon, and I want to thank you, Donna and Karen and Stephen, for inviting me to play and speak today. It's really a great honor, and like Steve Ford, my friendship with her is kind of rooted in something profoundly beautiful, and that's our love of the piano. Music, as you're getting a sense, was not a light activity for Shirley. It was a joyful passion. And she didn't keep her joy to herself. It was contagious, for sure. And this photo is a reminiscence of 2005. Shirley and John had led a campaign to raise funds for a new Steinway concert grand piano for the LaSalle Stewart Center. And the three of us traveled to the Steinway factory in New York for an opportunity to choose a new piano. And Shirley and I had just a magical day playing the instruments for each other. And this photo shows Shirley at one of the Steinways. It's not the one we chose. Next. And here she is seated at number 5. This is Steinway number 5, and this was a fabulous piano, is still. Shirley fell in love with it immediately, and so did I. It's no wonder, really, because this piano matched Shirley's personality. Vibrant, expressive, and colorful. Absolutely. And then my last photo. Once the piano arrived, we launched Corvallis OSU Piano International, and from the beginning, Shirley and John fueled our organization with their vision and their support. And our guest concert artists always enjoyed getting to know them both. Here's Shirley with the wonderful Korean pianist Yolam Son. That's one of my favorite photos of Shirley. So John, as the first president of our board, Piano International Board, he brought strong leadership, and Shirley brought warmth and her knowledge, and of course, her famous wit. You heard some of that from Steve, and I'll be happy to share some of that with you at the reception. But their impact on our music community, it was profound, and it lives on through their generous scholarships, for one thing, their generous scholarships for OSU music students. And in 1986, Shirley and I teamed up with our mutual friend, Bev Larson, who, as Joanne mentioned, was the founder of the Old Mill Center for Families and Children. And we put our heads together and created the Fireside Concert Series, which benefited Old Mill and the OSU piano program. And we got started at the Byrne residence when John was president, and Shirley played often at these, she shared often at these recitals. It carried on for 30 years. So whenever she played, she connected deeply, deeply with her audience. Just 3 months ago, some of us heard her play Rachmaninoff and Brahms at our People and Pianos Day at the library, and these were very poignant, expressive performances. They will stay with us. Shirley stayed fully engaged with music, practicing every day, teaching, going to concerts, and just sharing her enthusiasm. She was never passive, and she embraced both the piano and life itself with joy. So with these thoughts, I'd like to offer another musical reflection. This is the Waltz in A-flat major by Chopin. Chopin himself called it l'adieu, the farewell.
Bonnie Espenson lives pretty much walking distance from us and has been friends with Shirley for a long time and frequently duet partners. And especially in the last year, I was so relieved to have Bonnie in our house playing duets. I will mention this. When Shirley shares at piano group, it's a performance, I assume, because she practices like a maniac ahead of time. And they practiced together often, and I always enjoyed it.
Can I have the remote?
You want the clicker?
Yeah.
Okay, it's on, and so what we need to do is turn the picture back on.
Oh,
There it is.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the next one over is you,
All right,
okay? Right now, it's Rochelle's friend.
all right.
Yeah.
Don't walk.
Okay, you have to stand really close
Sorry,
to the
forgot
mic,
about the
Bonnie,
mic.
and let's push it closer to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Walk beside me and just be my friend. Albert Camus. Shirley walked beside many of us. How lucky we were. Shirley was warm, engaging, and authentic, even with those she didn't know well. One of my friends recently told me she'd had a brief encounter with Shirley in the lobby of Prax. They found themselves sitting together on a bench to rest. In the few minutes that they chatted, my friend felt as though they were no longer strangers. The theme running through most of my time with Shirley was music. From studying with the same teacher in Los Angeles to becoming piano teachers here and being active in OMTA, the Oregon Music Teachers Association, to belonging to a group of pianists who gathered together to perform for each other. Shirley and I shared our music and formed a lasting friendship. Shirley and I grew up in Los Angeles, where we had a really wonderful piano teacher named Edith Knox. I know that Edith was very important to Shirley because Shirley often spoke of Edith and the things we learned from her, especially what Edith called tone work, which enabled Shirley to play with a beautiful, warm tone and to bring out inner voices with ease. Here is an amusing genealogical chart that Shirley enjoyed so much. Shirley liked to say that she studied with Edith Knox, who studied with Solotti, who was a student of Franz Liszt, who learned from Czerny, who studied with Beethoven. Oh, I turned it off. Wrong one. There we go.
You got it, you're good.
Czerny studied with Beethoven, who learned from Bach. There's another similar line on the same chart that leads from Edith Knox to Mozart. Shirley learned from the best. If you get a closer look at the chart later, it'll be available, you will see that Shirley has put her name below Edith's. Maybe you can see it there. So if you were Shirley's student, Steve, you now can claim the same music heritage if you start teaching. Winston Churchill once said, "I'm always ready to learn, although I do not like always being taught." That was Churchill, but it was not Shirley. She liked to be taught if it meant she could learn something. She continued her piano studies after Edith Knox, earning a bachelor's and master's degree in music. She also took lessons here in Corvallis with Dolores Borgir and Rochelle McCabe. She went to music conferences, lectures, and workshops. She read books and articles on composers, music, and teaching. She never stopped learning. Here's Shirley. Lost my place. Here's Shirley at a piano workshop sponsored by Corvallis OSU Piano International. She is having a lesson with Paul Roberts, the well-known pianist and author of books on Debussy and Ravel. Finally, there was Piano Group, which is a group of pianists who get together roughly once a month to play for each other.
not to critique each other's playing, but simply to share music. Shirley was a regular member of piano group, and she was our self-appointed historian. I don't know when she began writing down the names of everyone who played and their pieces, but she faithfully recorded every performance in her binder or on a scrap of paper for as long as I can remember. In piano group, Shirley kept our musical standards high by example, playing her pieces beautifully. She was expressive and communicative in her playing, sharing the music she loved so much. Shirley also had a terrific sense of humor, and she kept our sessions from becoming too serious. More than any other member, Shirley was the heart and soul of piano group. We happened to have had a piano group meeting just yesterday. We agreed that there had been something about Shirley's presence that was important to the group. I think that by her presence, she had created an atmosphere of camaraderie, joy in the music, and just plain fun. Shirley and I sometimes played duets. Here we are getting ready to play a duet for piano group. Shirley liked to introduce our pieces with bits of background on the composer or the piece, or even about a single chord she had found interesting in her practicing. And, oh, another picture of us playing duets.
That's last March.
At the library.
When you were waiting for Rochelle.
Well, here's why we were waiting for Rochelle. This is a photo of Shirley, Rochelle McCabe, and me playing a six-hand piece by Rachmaninoff at People and Pianos Day at the Corvallis Library. Talk about having to share the bench. Finally, a story about Shirley and John. Another teacher and I happened to be meeting with Shirley, who was sharing with us a few tips on how she taught the OMTA syllabus program. In the middle of our meeting, John stopped by our table to say goodbye. He was off to work at OSU. Instead of giving Shirley a peck on the lips, as many husbands do, John and Shirley enjoyed a long kiss. A long kiss. So there in the middle of a lesson about music, my friend and I learned a lesson about love and commitment. Shirley walked beside many of us and was our friend. By living her life and sharing her passions with us, and by letting us see her love for John, we gained much from Shirley, and we miss her. Are we playing? Okay. Shall I turn it on? Do you want to announce the title of the piece? Yeah, I don't.
Well, this is a lovely piece of Maurice Ravel from his suite, Mother Goose, La Mère Loire, and it's called The Enchanted Garden.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. That was wonderful. Okay. I'd say that was enchanting. I get to take this now. Oops, back on. There we go. Okay, so I've had a front row seat and thought that, and I've been going through lots and lots of pictures and old scrapbooks and documents, and I've learned a lot about Shirley in these last couple of weeks. And I'm going to share 10 things you may or may not know about Shirley Byrne. Her birthday was wrong. I grew up, and she grew up, thinking her birthday was October 15th. That's what her mother told her, and you'd think she would know. But some years ago, fairly recently in the scheme of things, she obtained her birth certificate, and it turns out it says October 16th. So now all the official documents say 16 instead of 15. She was born in Southern California, and her family took lots of pictures. So that is her grandmother as a young woman, just to show how entrenched picture taking was. And there are lots of pictures, we don't know who they are, but we know that this is Shirley at about maybe age 4. When we were going through stuff for Dad, we actually found this little outfit that she was wearing. I can't find it now. I know we didn't get rid of it, but she was a cute little blonde kid. She was a bluebird and then a campfire girl. And her mother, E. O'Connor, Edith Elsie O'Connor, was her group leader. So no surprise that she continued in that way when we became kids and was a campfire leader. Okay, second thing. She once ruined her mother's new jacket. She was popular in school. She had lots of friends. This is Donna Metcalf. That's a picture at Knott's Berry Farm, which is an entertainment place with farm themes. This picture on the right was from a school newspaper, and Shirley wrote under it in her album that that was their first date. That's not John. This is before John. But anyway, one night, and she wanted to go out with a bunch of friends, and she was recovering from having her tonsils removed or a pneumonia or something, and so her mother said, okay, you can go, but you need to wear a jacket. And she wore her mother's nice new jacket, and they went out on the pier, and they looked down, and they saw these silver rocks in the moonlight. And then she noticed that the silver rocks were moving. And when you see that in Southern California, you immediately yell, the grunion are running! The grunion are running! And you run down on the beach, and you pick them up with your hands. That's the only way you're allowed to fish them. Little small fish that live off the West Coast. So there was a grunion run, and they spawn on the beach in Southern California in the moonlight. It's like the high tide after the full moon or something like that. So of course they took off their shoes, and she took off the nice jacket, and they put them all in a pile. And you know what happens when you're distracted at the beach? The tide starts coming in. So she ruined her mother's jacket. She was an award-winning knitter. Did you know that? When we were kids, she was always knitting something. And I haven't seen her do this for years, but she taught me as a child, and I knitted my share of ski hats. Here she is. That's high school. You can tell because she looks so young. And under it is she had written the names of all of the people in this picture, and the last name is Zane's Socks. She was knitting socks for then boyfriend Zane. You can see she's got the knitting needles. Well, she went on and she knitted these when we were, I think, elementary school. Karen, do you remember her knitting these? I remember that she had these little. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, it was grade school. She, these things to knit with all those colors in there. You have a little thing of red yarn hanging there, and you have a little thing of green yarn and white and fuzzy white for the beard. Well, these went to the Benton County Fair and came home with a blue ribbon. And we can't find them right now, but out there in the social hall at the reception, we do have a sampler Afghan that she knitted that's got 50 different patterns, and there's a sweater, and she won awards for those too. I think those were second place winners, red ribbons. So an award-winning knitter. Okay, she attended Whittier College in Southern California. It was about 12 miles away from home. She wouldn't have gone to college. She didn't come from a college-going family, but a teacher suggested that she apply for a scholarship. And she got a scholarship, and she was able to go to college. And no parent has ever been prouder than her father, I can tell you that. He was amazed. At Whittier, they had societies, which I understand are like sororities and fraternities, but without the living house. So there was Rush, where they have events, and you court them, and they court you. And so she was invited to join the Palmer Society. She was in the a cappella choir, and this picture was actually appeared in a local newspaper because they were going on tour around California. And then she graduated in 1953, and I found this little piece charming. This is from the local newspaper. To graduate tomorrow, these 3 local collegiates are candidates for degrees at the 50th annual Whittier College commencement tomorrow. They are, left to right, Ronald G. Sale, and it gives his street address. Shirley O'Connor, 6237 Wilcox, Bell. That's the street address. I remember that house. Am I in your way? And Robert E. O'Brien. And then it says, Sale and O'Brien will receive Bachelor of Arts degrees, and Miss O'Connor is a music major. Well, I can tell you she also received a Bachelor of Arts degree. Here's the graduation picture. So that was 1953. Now, if you do the math, she was still pretty young. She was born in 32. So she skipped half a year a couple times. They had their grades were half years, not whole years. Okay, but while she was there at Whittier, she was what I would say is like a homecoming queen, a festival queen for Cal Poly, California Polytechnic College, which was not all that far away, but at that time in its history, it was all men. And so they needed a court for their annual festival, and the court would be selected from among the women at Whittier College. Now, Shirley worked in the college dining hall. And as we've heard today, she is easy to talk to, she's friendly, she's outgoing, she knew everybody, and she got the most votes. So, festival queen of the Cal Poly Festival will be Miss Shirley May O'Connor, daughter of Robert O'Connor, and she was a sophomore at this team, and it mentions that she was a member of the Palmer Society in the a cappella choir. And there she is with the court. Okay, she went off to graduate school and met John, and that story, we told it last year, we told it in the obituary, and you all know them as a couple. She met him in the fall of 1983 when she was pretty new on campus. 53, what did I say, 83? 53, sorry, I was not born yet. And they were young, they spent time at the beach, they dated, it was wonderful. It didn't seem to be going anywhere, and so she broke up with him. He called his mother and said, she doesn't want to see me. They were broken up for, I think, a month, during which he went out with somebody else, but she didn't. She realized he was the one for her. And so they did get back together. When they got back together, he said, I need to ask you 2 questions. Will you marry me? And can you support me? Because he was still in graduate school, so she became a music teacher. This is from July 1954, so that next summer he went off to field camp, and we have some wonderful letters from field camp. They all start, Dear Doll. This one starts, Dearest Doll, and they are just filled up with I love yous. So they got back together. They married November 1954, and at some point, she promised she would follow him anywhere, and she has mentioned this to me several times over the last year or so. Yes, I vowed I would follow him anywhere, and some of it was pretty scary. So this was a mule ride down into the Grand Canyon. And they said that on the way down, you kind of envied, the people walking back up envied the folks on the mules. On the way back up, the folks on the mules envied the people walking, because we're not really designed for that. Okay, I'm going to let my sister Karen come up and tell about another scary event. They went cross-country skiing in Washington, D.C.
So, can you hear me now? So they were in Washington, D.C. at the time, and they were going to go cross-country skiing, and it was at a place called Rock Creek Park. And it was quite hilly, but they went anyway. Okay, so they're cross-country skiing, all is well. Mom could never hold it. You know what I mean by hold it. She needed to use the bathroom, and so there were no bathrooms for quite a ways, and they finally found one. It was locked. Okay. There were some people a little ways away, but not really within viewing distance. Mom decides to drop trowel. She told Dad to turn around. Not a problem. The problem was she had to go so bad she wasn't thinking, and her skis were pointed downhill. I'm not going to go into detail after that one. You guys can figure it out.
Okay, but she followed him onto those ski trails. Oops, wait a minute, wrong one. There we go. Okay. All right, so they went some crazy places. I'm not sure where this is, someplace where they have roofs like that. To 5 continents, as it turns out. And this, I think, is from the Galapagos, and I don't know what's going on here exactly, except clearly they're suiting up to go in the water, and this is one of the extremely rare photos of Shirley where she does not have a beautiful smile on her face. I think that one looks fun, a bicycle rickshaw. This is, they went to India, they went to Africa multiple times. I think that was probably India. There were adventures here in Corvallis, right? Getting up close and personal with an OSU llama. Oops, that's in there twice. I think this is back in Africa. Okay. And then I threw this in there because I guess I was feeling sentimental, and we'll see if I can read this without losing it. This is on the occasion of their anniversary in 1980. He says, Shirley, we have shared our lives. Each of us has helped the other through joys and pains we have grown together. You are now part of me, as I hope I am part of you. I love you so much. Even as I know you love me, you are my best friend, John. I know. I did it. I didn't cry. Okay. She liked birds. Hang on. You knew that, all right? But unless you're on Facebook, you probably haven't seen the bird cam pictures. We put up a bird camera that Karen gave us, and this is a Townsend's warbler, which I had never seen. And Shirley says, oh, I saw one of those once before. And she dug into her bird lists and was able to come up with where and when. And I assumed it was one lifelong bird list. I'm not seeing the nods of heads that would suggest there are serious hardcore birders out there in the audience. But she has lots of them. So every event had its own bird list, except turkeys. She didn't like turkeys. Turkeys, we tried everything. They had come up with slingshots and a BB gun, and this is a super soaker that we gave her for Mother's Day to help deal with the turkeys. Eventually, she decided to just enjoy the turkeys. They're serious about being on the property. They're not going anywhere. All right. This was, I think, a Mother's Day or an anniversary card that John painted, which I like because it's got two birds. Okay. She started graduate school. That's where she met John, and she dropped out. He got a job in Houston, Texas. They went. She was pregnant at the time. And so there was a hiatus from higher education for her while she had all of us. So I think that's me with the big hair, and that's Stephen on the right, still kind of big red hair. I think this is Karen, although it's hard to tell Lisa and Karen apart at that age. We miss Lisa. There they are. Birthday parties. We had birthday parties. Shirley could do events. She could put on events. She knew how to do that. And I'm amazed now, having hosted some children's birthday parties, at how many children are in this picture. Okay. And there's the six of us. And I put this one in here because I'm pretty sure that outfit I'm wearing is either a Bluebird or Campfire uniform. And she was my Bluebird leader. Stephen, was she your den mother? No? Oh, I thought she was. Okay, never mind. Yep. What? Oh, you didn't have them then. Okay. All right. Well, there we all are. Okay. And then later, she finished grad school. She went back and she did it again. And I was already, I think I was in college and probably in Europe. She went to the University of Oregon and achieved a master's in music from the University of Oregon. I missed the master's recital. That was the year that I was studying in Europe. She has always told me that she choked. I never really believed it, but I did listen to the tape, and yeah, she choked. So I'm glad that I wasn't there, because I would have felt awful for her. And she told me that John said he really didn't enjoy sitting there watching her perform because he got too nervous for her. And I understand that. I mean, I was sitting here nervous for Bonnie and Rochelle just now, with absolutely no need. All right, and she never stopped teaching. So when she died, she was planning to start a new student that week. So right up to the very end. This is a younger picture. I think this is probably back when she was studying with Edith Knox, or maybe in college, I'm not sure. At our old upright Steinway, I'm not sure where that is, but you can see the white thing on the left, that's a bassinet. Yeah. That's a Div and Liat. Start them early. I think this is Lauren. Right. starting early at their house. And then performing on those 2 grand pianos in our living room. And I'm not sure who everybody in this picture is, but I'm sure there are people here. Carol I recognize, Carol Mason on the end here, and Shirley Byrne on the other end. And I'm not sure who the 2 people in between are. Here's the program from one of her sharing sessions, and she did call them sharings, not recitals, but there was always a printed program, and she impressed me by being able to format this in Microsoft Word, I think, or WordPerfect. And then I just put in a couple of pictures. This is at the event at the library 5 years ago. And then, as I mentioned, she practiced. When she had a performance coming up at book group, she practiced diligently, 2 or 3 hours a day after the piano lessons, late in the afternoon. But it was hard to alert her when it was time for dinner because she's startled so easily, and she gets so focused when she's playing the piano that you have to make a lot of noise to get her attention. So that picture is actually taken through the living room, and that's a reflection in the window at the other end, which is why it's kind of funky. You can't really see her, but you can see that she's sort of ghost-like there. Now, our routine became that she would be practicing and I would be working, and late afternoon is an alert time for me. That's a good work time. I'd be all engrossed. When she finished whatever she was working on, she would go to one of her comfort pieces, something she knew well and enjoyed playing. And lately, usually, it was the graceful ghost rag. She loved it. A number of years ago, a pianist named Jeremy Dank was the performer for the piano series, and at the reception afterwards, she asked him to play. And I found a handwritten note where she says that Jeremy Dank played Grateful Ghost Rag. So as a tribute to our grateful, graceful ghost, Shirley, we're going to end with Rochelle playing Graceful Ghost Rag, and then I hope you will all join us in the social hall. There's food, there are pictures, the knitting samples, and please enjoy the Graceful Ghost Rag. Thank you, everybody. Okay, please don't be shy. If you go out this door, it's a straight shot to Gatton Hall. If you go out the back door, you want to take a left and then a right. And there's food there and stuff.